What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So we're going to continue our conversation surrounding the Gotham Knights gameplay that was released via IGN. It's the first 15 minutes of the game, and there are so many thoughts that a lot of community members have. So in my videos regarding this, I'm going to be kind of highlighting some of the comments, some of the concerns, I guess, that the community is bringing up in this conversation. And I really want people to comment and just kind of put their own takes on some of these particular topics, because the game is still about 60 days out. There are changes that could be made. In my opinion, I feel like some of those changes are not necessarily big changes. Optimization, perhaps somebody was talking about, and this is one very interesting concern. I think I saw two comments regarding it, but somebody said when she was climbing the stairs, felt like she was about to fall down. So that might be something that is a maybe skeleton or mesh issue that they probably have to go ahead and fix. So hopefully the developers are, looking closely into this. QA is noticing and monitoring this stuff so that in the final game, the product is much more polished. Today, we're going to be looking at one concern that is coming up over and over again, and that is in the aspect of dialogue, or character conversation in a sense. And already in the very first 15 minutes, you already see extreme exposition that is not necessary. I think this is a very huge problem with Western game development and ideology. It appears that after Elden Ring came out, it really did expose this game development philosophy, which anytime the gamer is actually playing, there are excessive amounts of hints to actually point the gamer exactly where they need to go. There's almost no room for the gamer to have any freedom or flexibility to maybe get frustrated, or maybe in some sense play the game themselves and figure things out as they're actually going. Now, I understand this is also the tutorial, the beginning phase of the game, so they're probably trying to make the entire gameplay strategy palatable for everyone who's playing the game. That is not a problem. The UI already does that. Even Elden Ring, in its UI, as you're playing through the very first part of the mission, you're going to see all your button configurations that allow for you to be able to maybe attack, do heavy attacks, do dodges, blocks if you have a shield or whatever it is. And so those games, and every game should have those elements, no doubt. And by the way, I'm not necessarily comparing Gotham Knights to Elden Ring. In fact, I think all that talking that Barbara was doing can almost be compared to Aloy. One of my audience members brought this point up and said it almost feels like you're dealing with Aloy again, who even comments about her inventory because they just talk so much. The dialogues in video games that are successful, where there's a lot of talking, is actually done differently to make it very dynamic. And I will give you some wonderful examples in this video, because we're in 2022. There is no need for extreme dialogue in a video game. If anything, games are trending towards discovery these days. Yes, there could be story, but there could also be a nice balance of letting the player just figure things out, especially if the player is not known to be a talkative type of character. In the case of Spider-Man, Peter Parker is usually talkative. That's almost natural for the character. And yes, the voice actors that have played the character have been seasoned in the sense that they already know how to vocalize this character. In the case of Batgirl, we're still in a sense trying to understand where this character stands in her own approach to finding out what has gone on with Bruce and what's going on in Gotham City. But at the same time, there are detective capabilities that she should have, just like Batman. So we'll let that do a lot of the talking and the conversation. Maybe short comments here and there for very critical or important things, but not necessarily all of the obvious, in my opinion. Now, let's give a few examples of games that have done a very good job in making character dynamics feel fluid and actually feel welcome, in a sense that it's not overwhelming, or at least much to bear that even people are commenting on it in the very first 15 minutes of the entire game. Look at God of War. Kratos is naturally a quiet character. He doesn't really talk too much. Atreus has to bring out the conversation from him. In order for them to make the character feel dynamic, they added the accompanying character Atreus to also provide some kind of dialogue and provide a way to point hints to Kratos himself. Eventually, they went ahead to add a third character, Mimir, who's also into pointing out all kinds of hints, engaging in conversation, and making the entire party feel like an entire party and an adventure. I think this is a way that many video games can actually add a dynamic aspect to a single player character or a single player scenario when one character is actually going. Now, here's the thing. Gotham Knights already has that mechanic based on the Belfry. Someone at the Belfry, be it Robin, Nightwing, or Red Hood, are likely to play a role of continuing to communicate with any of the other detectives that are out there, or knights, let me call them knights, that are out there solving a mission or looking into some kind of a crime or progressing through the game. Now, this interwoven or network of conversations will probably have to be something that is maybe scaled down or maybe done intentionally to not make the character feel like they're just talking to themselves the entire time. If you also look at, say, the Uncharted series, which is another very quality set of adventure games, you're going to notice that there is a way that Naughty Dog implements this particular mechanic for a talkative character. Now, I've shown you Kratos, who's a quiet character. Let's look at Nathan Drake, who is kind of funny, a jester in a sense. If he was always on his own and making all these wise comments to himself all the time, at some point it'd get tiring. But because of the way stories usually allow for the protagonist to need someone to sometimes bounce off their ideas on, the developers decided to add these very core elements to all of the adventures. So you have Sully, you have maybe Chloe, sometimes you have Sam Drake. Depending on the Uncharted game you're playing, there are moments, segments, areas where you actually are being accompanied by another AI character that is having a conversation with you. Even better, they added an element to this, making these AI characters join in your gameplay where they can help you to cross obstacles, help you to maybe reach places that you might not be able to reach. This is the same with Atreus if you were to even say God of War side. But, you know, it's very interesting to see that this is something that many video games have adopted. And I feel like Gotham Knights, from a gameplay perspective, especially from those who are into this kind of a superhero gameplay with the Batman family, we ought to see some seriousness in that game. Like, yes, the themes are quite serious. In fact, in the very first 15 minutes, you can already tell that this game is not going to be rated for a wide audience. It's going to be quite specific to an audience that is much more mature. So maybe 16, maybe M for mature, or whatever it is they want to go ahead and rate the game. But at the end of the day, it needs to have a very serious tone. So the talking and all of that stuff might be bothering some people in the game. And so I think that's why these comments have come up in the comment section. My personal opinion, they can probably maybe remove some dialogue. Maybe something is burning over there and this is not a good situation. Well, Batgirl doesn't need to say it's not a good situation, because it's not a good situation. We already know that. A burning building, I don't know who would probably say, yeah, that's a great sight to behold. Not necessarily a lot of people. So this might be something that they might want to look into from the gameplay side of things. And hopefully maybe when the game comes out, we'll probably be able to get a polished version of all of this. So I'd love to hear your thoughts regarding the dialogue. If you want to go back and watch it again to kind of maybe see if this is something that you can actually deal with, or maybe it's something that you felt was a little bit over the top, let me know in the comment section, because I would like to hear your thoughts. And I'm sure the devs are looking around the internet, looking at reactions, just to see how the community is embracing the game. Other than that, I feel like other than just this conversational aspect where it kind of felt somewhat bland because the character kept talking to themselves, and maybe some aspects of combat with that tank or heavy enemy, I think there are a few things that we probably can maybe point at, but so far so good. The game is looking exactly like mostly like what we were shown at the onset. So I think this game is going to set the tone for exactly what it's going to be. Expectations right now have reached a level of what I call reality. The hype and the detractors, I think everyone has leveled out, because our eyes have seen at least 30 minutes or more of gameplay. And now we're probably approaching an hour. And I'm sure by the end of this month, all of the different details, we would know a lot about this game. And at that point, it will solidify where people stand. And at the end of the day, reviews are probably not going to do anything different to Gotham Knights. Talk to me in the comment section. Like I said, thanks so much for watching. Peace out.